Welcome to Faith Talks, a monthly program on the Generation podcast designed to help young ladies discover greater ways to nurture and exercise their faith in their day-to-day walk with Christ.
Hello, I'm Janna Faith.
And I'm Anna Faith, and welcome to episode 37 of Faith Talks.
Well, we are excited. We are both together in the same room.
Yes, very, very excited. We've been having a party here with each other.
And I have not seen, did you come down? Yeah, you came down.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago.
3 weeks. Yeah.
I saw 4 of the Gilmores, but then before that, I hadn't seen him since Christmas Eve.
Yes.
So it has
before
been,
our trip.
Yes, and there's so much that's happened since then. It feels like a different lifetime ago.
It really does. Yes.
So we are happy to be together, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what God's been teaching me, and Anna Faith is going to chime in with some things. And many of you know I got married on May 17th, 2024, a couple months ago, and it was a wonderful day. I like to call it a magical day because I felt so relaxed, and it was a lot of fun. And then we went on our honeymoon, and then we moved. Judson had already moved in January, so he had been at Martinsville Baptist Tabernacle for quite a few months, but I moved in May, and so I don't know, you girls out there, some of you who have completely moved when you're older, it is a big thing. You know, you've got a new house to set up with all these gifts from the wedding. That takes a couple weeks. And then you have, of course, your new relationship with your husband, but then also the relationships with your church members. You've got a completely new church. You know, people are talking about this person over here, and you have no clue who they're talking about and who's related to who. And just all the, I think every church has a different culture too, you know, and some are more, you know, Southern culture, or just even since there's a large school there, you have the school culture and just a lot of things. And of course, we're working with the youth ministry, so new youth group, new contacts, you know.
Everything new, like completely new life.
New. I told somebody I was talking about, I said, yeah, like new husband. And they're like, really? I'm like, well, it's the same husband I had, but he's new himself. So, and then the fact that you're in a new town. This was kind of something I didn't think about, honestly. And of course you say, well, you grew up traveling to a new place every week. Like, how is this hard? Well, it's one thing when you're traveling. It's another thing when you're living there. But even just like, okay, like where do you go shopping? Where do you get your oil changes? Where do you everything's different. We don't have like a lake per se.
Yes, I was going to mention that when we were there. Jan and Judson were saying that, like, oh, there's no lake that we can go to. And here in Wisconsin, there's like, obviously you have like Michigan, and there's tons of lakes around too. So it's kind of like, well, of course there's a lake, but there's not.
So, and we did find a couple, but they're different too, and they're farther away. So anyway, new scenery, yes, lots. But I do love it there, and it's a lot of, it's been a lot of fun adjusting to everything, and then also just getting to know the church. I absolutely love the church people there, and I absolutely love our youth group that we're working with, and God's really knit my heart with them so that they feel like my family in a lot of ways. So that's been neat. So that was kind of a lot of my May and June. And towards the end of June, I kind of felt like, okay, I kind of know, I'm getting to the point where I kind of know the big families in the church. You know, I may not know everybody, but I know the basics. Well, the end of June, I started feeling very, very tired. And that was my first kind of cue, like, okay, something's wrong. I don't know why I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. Am I sick? And then I just felt like my stomach felt really weird. Like, I'm just like, oh, I just was kind of like a little bit flabby. Like, what is it? What is this? And so beginning of July, I took a test, and we found out we're pregnant. So that was, you know, kind of a shock. You have so many emotions that flood you when you read that test. You know, you have extreme excitement, you've got fear, you've got joy, you've got anxiety. And of course, my mom's journey, which she shared on here before, she had 11 years of marriage and 5 miscarriages. And so automatically I thought, you know, I'm probably going to have a miscarriage right away. Like, it just, because that's what my mom went through. And you start looking up, what are you not supposed to do when you're pregnant, you know? And you see, okay, you can't have lunch meat. Okay, you can't have pink meat, and you can't you shouldn't have raw egg. And of course, like the day before I took the pregnancy test, I had made cookies and eaten so much cookie dough. And you're like, oh no, I'm going to lose the baby. I had raw egg. So there's that. And just scary things that happen along the way. I was sharing with Anna Faith before, when we were at about 8 weeks, someone threw a Frisbee and it hit my stomach really hard. And I had to go sit down and my whole stomach hurt for like 30 minutes. And I was like, oh no, like this is terrible. But the Lord protected, and as far as we know, baby is okay and doing well. But what I was primarily going to talk about today is what God's just been teaching me through sickness. And I know our theme this year is choosing joy, through trials, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, from James. And that's been what we've been interviewing people on. And I do not at all say that pregnancy is a trial, because pregnancy is a great joy, and I'm so, so thankful to be pregnant. But if some of you listening might have had this before, or maybe your mom, or maybe one of your friends did, is the famous morning sickness. And that hit me harder than I would have thought. I didn't really think about that much. And some of you out there, maybe you haven't been pregnant before, but you can relate to a time in your life where you were sick, or maybe currently you're going through a health trial and you have that just health, you're thinking about your health and how you feel for the majority of the day. And it's a lot. For me, it felt a lot like having the flu, but just all the time. And, you can eat and that helps it, but also just being so tired. And it kind of came a little bit to a head when we went to a youth conference in July, and I was just so sleepy. I would fall asleep on Judson during the sermon. And we had 3 youth group boys with us. And I was like, they are going to think like, here's the youth pastor's wife with just sleeping like in the service. And then couple times I would go sleep in the car just because I couldn't handle it. Well, it would go very late in the evenings, like 11 or something. So anyway, and one of the boys finally said to my husband, why does your wife go and sleep all the time? And he's like, well, she's not feeling well. And we were very glad they were boys and not girls, because girls would have sniffed it out right away. But anyway, I got home after that and just had more weeks of sickness. And I think the devil can often just take whatever we're going through and just cast doubts in our mind. And I know one thing I struggled with is like, is this ever going to end? I know people who have been sick their entire pregnancy, and I know people who have been bedridden, a lot worse than even just being sick. But just discouragement, and also just discouragement about not being able to do what I used to be able to do. I love going out for coffee with people or fellowshipping with people after church, before church. I love soul winning and being able to minister. And it's like I love to exercise and all those things that you want to do, but when you're so sick, you can't. You're throwing up. You can't make it to something that you really wanted to be at. And the Lord just kept speaking to me, especially in those moments when I would just sit on the couch and feel very sad. The verse from Nehemiah 8:10, which says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And that verse in a very real way became a live and die verse for me. And especially when maybe I was going to church and felt absolutely terrible, but that if I choose joy, the Lord will give me his strength. And I think it's easy to think, oh, well, when I'm strong or when I'm feeling well, then I'll have joy. But in all reality, when you're actually not feeling well and you choose to have that joy, the Lord literally gives you his strength. And I even felt that physically, that when I would choose joy and choose to let the Lord shine through me, he would give me the physical strength I needed to make it those couple hours at church or at the activity or whatever was going along. And I just also wanted to direct our attention to one other passage. 2 Corinthians 12, of course, talks about his strength being made perfect in our weakness. And let me just read these 2 verses. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. And then this part, therefore I take pleasure in infirmities and reproaches and necessities, keeps going on for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. And I was talking about this with Anna Faith before this as well. Would you rather, think about this, would you rather be feeling amazing and you've got this, you're strong, but would you rather be physically strong and then spiritually weak? And I think that often happens to us when we get self-confident or we're feeling like, yeah, I can serve God. I've got this. We have no spiritual power, but yet we have that physical power. Mm-hmm. Would you rather have that, or would you rather be physically weak? Maybe that's you're sick. Maybe that's you have a headache. Maybe it's some chronic illness. Maybe you have diabetes. Maybe you have a learning disability or something like that. And you're physically weak, but yet through that weakness, God gives you incredible spiritual strength. Well, I think if we all looked at it, we'd say, yeah, I would choose being physically weak so that I can be spiritually strong, because that's what really matters. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big things God taught me, not just obviously, and you know the truth, but when you go through something for a couple of months, the truth becomes a daily reality, not just a theory and a message that you heard before. And God also revealed just a lot of selfishness. When you don't feel well, you don't feel like being the nicest person ever. And the Lord's like, there's no reason you need to be even just difficult, like, oh, get me this, do this, whatever, to Judson. Or there's no reason at church you need to be cantankerous with talking with somebody. Like, the Lord can give you the grace to have a joyful spirit even when you are feeling physically terrible. And also one other thing, God just gave me a heart for others in physical trials. And there's several people who I am in contact with who are going through physical years of trials and diseases and things they don't know, they don't have answers for. And the Lord just led me to pray for those people, just even knowing what they're going through emotionally, not being able to get out. And I think whatever trial you're in, you are going to have a heart for other people in that similar kind of trial. And God can really use that to give you a heart for that. So that's kind of one of the first things I was going to say. First is choosing joy in the weakness that you have. And then the other big thing that God's been teaching me is choosing joy in whatever phase of life you're in. And I think this has been a continued lesson throughout the years. But I remember when I was in high school and you're like, oh, if I could just be in college, then I can serve God. Or if I just could be on the mission field or have some big purpose and calling. But like, here I am in boring high school just doing my homework, and I have these annoying siblings. And it can just be easy to not be thankful and not be joyful in the phase that you're at. And another one would be college. I remember in college, like, I just need like a week to sleep. Like, give me a break. I'm so stressed out with this recital or whatever. And you can sometimes think, oh, once I graduate, like, that's the ideal. Instead of like, you're really missing what God's teaching you right then. Or maybe you're out of college. Anna Faith can attest to that. And maybe it's trying to figure out, okay, what does God want for me right now? What's my mission? What am I doing? Or even like, who am I supposed to marry? Just trying to figure that all out and thinking, oh, it would be so much easier if I was just married and a pastor's wife. Then life would be something.
Yeah, I want to jump in here, just give a couple thoughts on obviously the stage that I'm in. Yes. But I think something that I'm just realizing more, even just as I have on my journey of faith, just following the Lord, is that you're always, whatever stage you're in, you're going to have questions or like weaknesses that like you're not going to get over when you go to the next. Like it's always going to be a continued weakness in some way in whatever phase it is. And so realizing like, okay, I have this question in front of me. It seems like my life question. Like obviously you think of, out of college, okay, like marriage, everything, thinking about that. But like, okay, once I know that, then like, what's the next question? Like, what's my ministry? Like, what is my husband's ministry? And like, it's just going to continue, you know, like, okay, now you're like, oh, I'm having a kid. Okay. How do you be a mom? Like all these questions, there's just going to be a continual cycle of questions in life. And I think obviously God allows those for us to, like you're talking about, choosing joy and seeing God's grace in our lives and realizing that like all we are as humans, even at our strongest point, you know, even the Bible talks about, you know, all of our righteousness is as filthy rags, and realizing that literally everything that we do in life is weakness without God. And so God sometimes puts like a focus on it through some trial or something in your life to help you realize, wait a second, like all I do is weakness. And God is, his grace in my life is bringing me to that point where I can see that I am weak.
You realize what you really has been true all along.
Yeah.
And I think too, like embracing what phase you're in as like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
And that gives you such a peace and just an anchor in your life to realize like, this is a moment that I'm never going to have again, you know? And I know for me, maybe there's some of you out there that maybe you are out of college and you're in a big swamp of questions and darkness. And I have been there, like even in this stage, but right now God has just been working in my heart, opening up doors. And I am just so excited about this phase in this stage of life. And I like, he's been clarifying my ministry, like what I'm supposed to do. And like when you bring all those questions, you put them in God's hands, he like just gives back so many things to you. And so I just want to encourage, if any of you are out of college and you're not married yet, you're still single, you have an opportunity of ministry that Janna is jealous of right now because you have the freedom, you have the ability to reach out in a way that you couldn't if you were connected, like obviously married or like had a family.
And I think same if you graduated from high school and you're not going to college, you're kind of in that same phase
same
as well.
Stage. Yeah, that young adult single stage. And just realizing that like, yeah, God has something so amazing for you right now, and don't miss it because like one day you're going to look back and you're going to realize, wow, I could have done so much more. And yeah, I'm so excited about what God's, like where this phase, which I know we're talking about like wanting to be in other phases, but like when you choose to trust God with just everything in the phase that you're in, the questions, the, I don't know, just the weakness of where you're at, he like totally takes over and makes things so amazingly clear to you, and just serving him in that phase is amazing. And so I just want to share that about my phase right now. And I also wanted to just add to the whole sickness thing that I was thinking, Janna had asked me even before about like even sickness in PNG when we were on our trip. And it's amazing like when you're in those moments, which I actually didn't get sick that much, but I had one of my sisters got sick over and over and over again. And just that weakness and obviously physical sickness is really, really hard to overcome, especially as a girl. And when it comes again and again and again, even when we were on Mushu Island and it was so hot there. And thankfully, I didn't get sick, but one of my brothers got sick. 2 of my sisters were sick a good portion of the time. And in that extreme heat it was honestly excruciating. Like, how do I handle this? I don't have my bed to go to. I don't have all the, supplements and vitamins that my mom gives. Like, I don't have that. I don't have the like emergency drink that I can go get or whatever. Like, I just have to tough it out here in this hot place, like where there's really no relief. And like those moments where it was like completely just darkness and death inside of us was when God, like, I don't know, just really, really worked in our lives and just showing us, like I was saying before, like, you are weakness. As a human,
to that point,
as a human, that's like, that's part of what you are is that weakness. And that's what I want to use. And so it was amazing just to see, even in that way, in missions, like, you're going to have a lot of weaknesses. And But that's not a bad thing. Like, that is actually an amazing part of God's working in your life. And if you can come to that point where you realize, yes, the joy of the Lord is my strength, that's where that faith is being built, and you're realizing just like God's grace in your life. So
I was texting one of my, you could say, mentors, and some of my students' moms, and she was asking how things were going, and I was just kind of telling her it wasn't going so well. And the War Special Forces, my parents' team, came to our church. Well, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Pretty recently here. And of course, I had great visions of, I'm going to be there for recruiting, I'm going to be there for counseling, I'm going to be there all the, because I'm so used to being so involved in my parents' ministry. But that was a really hard week for me, and I was throwing up left and right. And I was just struggling because I felt like I couldn't do what God had called me to do. And one of my friends who I was talking about just texted and said, your primary ministry is to your family and the people that God's called you to. And I think sometimes that can be easy. You want to reach out, sometimes almost too much, when you realize, that's 100% important, but you also have a duty to your family. And especially now as a mom, like, to this baby. And she said, obviously raising your kids is ministry, and that's your primary ministry. And that even involves being homesick. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, that is really true. Like, this is ministry. Mm-hmm. Being at home sick, this is what God's chosen for me, and raising this life is going to impact the world. And you can't choose all the time. You might look at what you are, you're like, maybe you work a secular job, and you're like, that's, my coworkers, they're so hard. I wish if I just worked somewhere else, they would be more open to the gospel. But you can't always choose that. God puts you with the people that you're with, and for a specific reason, and that's why he has you in that phase. And it was just very helpful to just realize that ministry isn't always what you think it is. It's whatever God's called you to. It's your specific calling in life.
Yeah, and as Janna's saying this, I just want to throw right in here a quick application too. If you are kind of sitting there and you don't know, like, okay, what is my ministry? What is my mission for this stage that I'm in? I would encourage you to just like get with God and say, okay, God, like, what am I here for? Like Janna's like, okay, mom is like number one priority now. And, or if you're maybe a single girl and God's like, I want you to do discipleship. Go find 4 girls, start a Bible study. That is your number one thing. Or maybe if you're a teen and you have the opportunity to be in a school or to be in a place where other Christians aren't, and you are the Christian, you have an amazing opportunity to be a light. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody is going to reach these people like you can. You have an amazing, amazing gift.
And even if you're in upper high school, you have an incredible gift of, say you're a junior or senior, everyone is looking at you. Mm-hmm. And I know I was really encouraged 2 weeks ago when the war came. There was one of our seniors who goes to our youth group, and she stood up on Friday night and gave a testimony about, I'm not going to mock the teachers anymore. I'm not going to laugh at the dirty jokes, but I'm going to stand up, and I want revival. I want God to use my life. And she actually gave a testimony the next week in chapel in front of 140 high schoolers there. Wow. And then they had him stand up if you're with her. And yes, it's one person, but the difference one person can make in a school environment and in peer pressure is actually incredible. And so don't underestimate that. Or maybe if you're homeschooled, it's your sibling who annoys you. Mm-hmm. They need to see Jesus, and maybe it's teaching them how to read their Bible and how to study. There's always ministry and mission and purpose with where God's put you.
And I think too, as a teen, there's something I didn't realize till after I was after that life stage, was the amazing opportunity you have as a teen to walk with God. And I'm thinking of the verse 1 Timothy 4, let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers. And the amazing ability as a teen to be an example of what a Christian should look like is such a special thing, because it is so unusual, and God can use it in such an amazing way, even in a church setting. Like maybe you're homeschooled, maybe you're a single child and you're homeschooled. Like, okay, what ministry do I have as a teen or whatever? Like maybe God wants to use you in your church in an amazing way to be an example. And I don't know, I just think that's an amazing thought too as a teen, to realize that in this stage that you have an amazing opportunity to show God's glory through your life, through maybe the weak points of teen life. You know, you're kind of coming into yourself. You have a lot of questions about life. It's confusing. And maybe like you feel bound by all these different things. But if you can come before God and say, God, I believe you for my life right now. And God, I want to be used of you right now. Show me where I can be used. And you will be such an encouragement to your church, to even parents out there, other families, that you can encourage other teens. And I think that's a huge thing that I just wanted to share, that shouldn't be neglected, and that God can use you right now where you're at as a teen.
So ask yourself, what mission or tasks has God given me right now? Mm-hmm. And choose to embrace the present and God's plan, even if maybe you're in a present time of trial, time of difficulty. And one last thing, it's easy to think, oh, I'm going to look to my circumstances for joy, or I'm going to look to my feelings if I feel happy, or people, or maybe it's a special event, if I can just make it to that will be fun. I'll find joy. Or even I think we can look for, when God answers that prayer, then I'll feel joy. And God doesn't ask us to put our joy condition on that. He says, you should be joyful because of me. And I think if you get your eyes on the Lord, you will be joyful. You'll be thankful. You will see how much he loves you and how much he's given you, and how much just who he is something to be joyful about.
Yes.
And Pastor Zempel said on Sunday, he was talking about just seeking the Lord. And he read the quote that Corrie ten Boom said, that you can never learn that Christ is all you need until Christ is all you have. And I know I've heard that a couple times before, but that phrase I was just thinking about, that is so true. When she was in all sorts of distress and persecution and everything, but when all she had is Christ, and so Christ became everything. And I know pretty much almost every single one of us out here, all we have is not Christ, that we have a lot more than that. So much, yeah. But if you choose to seek Christ and put your eyes on him, that's what she's talking about. And I was reading yesterday, or 2 days ago maybe it was, in Psalm, and then it's referencing 1 Chronicles 16, where it says, seek the Lord and his strength, seek his face forevermore. And just thinking about God wants us to seek his strength, and how that ties into the joy of the Lord is your strength, seeking the Lord. So I just encourage you, choose joy in the phase of life that you're in right now, and watch God just give you that incredible enabling strength.
I wanted to add to that, when you were saying embrace the present, it brought to mind a little pithy statement that my dad had shared with me earlier a couple months ago. And that was, and this kind of goes along with seeking the Lord. My dad was saying, if you can embrace God's presence right now and who God is to you, you will be able to enjoy the physical presence that God sends your way. And if we can realize that, like, if God is enough for everything for you to have in your life, the things that he's going to send your way are going to be just overflowing out of who God is and what he has done for you. And everything that comes into your life, you're going to realize this is just God. And like, I know him. And like, even if he takes these away, I have you. And like, God, you are all that I need. And I know that, obviously we're on that journey of seeking the Lord in our lives and his strength for whatever weakness that we're going through. But then it will become, the presence that you're seeking will become presence to you. Physical, like joy and peace and all of these things that are not going to be there unless God's in your life. Like, who God is going to become the overflow of joy in your life. So just in conclusion, our focus on this podcast is just for you to choose joy in weakness, in whatever stage or phase that you're in right now. And you may be a mom that's going through some physical weakness. Maybe you're pregnant. Maybe you're a single girl like me, and maybe you're a teen. I just encourage you just to ask God to make clear in your life what your mission is right now. And then if there's weakness there, if you're struggling with a big trial, if you're in darkness, just say, okay, God, I, by faith, am choosing your joy, and I'm trusting you that you're going to strengthen me through this and that you're going to teach me things. And I was sharing with Janna before this podcast that a lot of times in our lives, as you are growing in your Christian walk, as you're going through weakness, it's kind of like the analogy I'm thinking of is like the pain that you feel when you're running or you're biking or you're exercising. It kind of becomes a learned almost like not negative. It becomes this learned like, ooh, I'm feeling the burn. Let's keep going. You know, me and my dad were biking yesterday and it was burning as we were going up the hill. I'm like, wow, this burn is like, yeah, it hurts, but I like it because I know like I'm working out, I'm doing something and it's helping me. And if we can in our Christian life realize, oh, I feel the burn. I feel weak. Oh, this is a big trial. Okay, I feel darkness. Okay, this is exciting. God's doing something. Because I feel weak, that means that now I'm strong because my dependence is on God. It's not on me at all. And that muscle of faith, as we go through those trials and that weakness and the darkness becomes stronger and stronger. So when, okay, the weakness comes right away, you're like, okay, the joy of the Lord. I need my Bible. I need these verses. And I am going to respond in faith right now because it's a learned thing. And obviously God's developing your faith, your walk of faith, in your journey of faith. So those are some concluding thoughts. And I would just encourage you, we kind of already gave application kind of midway through our podcast. But if you're still questioning, okay, what's my mission? I would encourage you, just sit down with God, get your Bible out, and maybe even make a list of like your roles in your life and ask God, okay, God, what's most important here? Here's what I think I should do, but I'm just going to give it to you, and would you lead me? And we know that the Lord is going to lead you in that and just give you clarity for what you're supposed to do. Girls, I just want to encourage you. We are in this world right now to be lights, simply to be a light to the people around us and to be a voice in whatever phase you're in. And maybe your light is like Janna was saying, okay, I can't get out as much. I'm at home right now. Maybe I'm supposed to be praying for other people in physical weakness. That is being a light, right? That's encouraging them without like, I don't know, just encouraging them through prayer. Or maybe you are out working a secular job or something like that where you're surrounded by unsaved people, and God wants you to just be a voice, to be a light around you. I know I've been encouraged recently just with the stage that I am in. I'm doing a lot of I'm doing nanny care and babysitting and that type of stuff, and I'm in a lot of homes, and God's just been working in my life to develop that boldness and just being a light, saying, you know, this is who I am. God has changed my life, and just praying that God would lead me to those opportunities and conversations that I can just simply be a light, because that's why I'm here. And there's an amazing opportunity if each one of us will see, okay, God, you've placed me here. This is what I'm supposed to do. I know my mission. I know it's clear to me, and I'm going to embrace it and be that light, and I'm going to see you work. Okay, now I have weakness. Okay, now I'm going to choose your joy. So just that whole the process of what God wants to do in your life is so that you can be that light to the world too. And so I would just encourage you, whatever phase you're in, whatever stage you're in, whatever weakness you may feel, remember that faith doesn't just talk, faith walks.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Generation Podcast. If this challenge stirred your heart, then you might want to join us this coming October for our annual The Generation Youth Summit. You can compete in exciting 4-way competitions and hear how your life can turn the world upside down. For more information, please visit thegeneration.org/summit. That's THEEgeneration.org/summit.